live with Tao. The witnessing self. What is witnessing self? It is a state, a space within where one dwells after transcendence, when subject and object dissolve into one another. When during this morning session, from your side, from the female side, female is the subject and this male is the object. They dissolve into one another. From the side of the male is subject and the female is object. Both dissolve into one another. Both male and female are the doors to enter this inner space, oneness that we know as witnessing self. Gurdjieff used the method of self-remembering. Buddha used the method of samyak smriti, right mindfulness, right-mindedness. These are the different doors through which enter into one space, the eternal, the inner space, the witnessing space. When we enter through the door of the feminine, it is, or through the male, it is the disappearance of object and subject, and we reach the inner space. The inner space that is witnessing. When the knower and the known disappear into one another, when the object and subject dissolve into one another, when matter and energy dissolve into one another. A unique confluence, a unique moment. This inner space, this witnessing self knows both the knower and known, the object and subject, the matter and energy. This witnessing self is ultimate. You cannot go beyond it, because now whatsoever you do will be a witnessing. After this experience of the meditation session that you had this morning, you have reached the space of witnessing beyond which there is nothing and you cannot move. Beyond witnessing, you cannot move. Witnessing is the ultimate substratum. This witnessing is the ultimate substratum, the basic ground of consciousness. if you can perceive in yourself one point which is both knower and the known, a point where matter and energy dissolving into one another, where two bodies disappearing into one another, you have transcended the physical, the object and subject both, beyond the bodies. Then you have transcended the matter and mind also. Then you have transcended the outer and inner both. You have come to the point where knower and the known are one. This is no division. With the mind, division remains. Only with witnessing self that had happened, division disappears. With the witnessing self, you cannot say who is the known and who is the knower. Can you say or define who is the knower and who is the known? With the dissolution of the two bodies into one another, the knower and known have become one. It is both. But this has to be based on experience. This is not a matter of philosophical discussion. This morning, this session was the experiment. Imagine you are sitting near a rose flower. You are sitting near a rose flower. Look at it. The first thing to do is to be totally attentive. Give total attention to the rose. You can use the two bodies, male and female. Give total attention to the object so that the whole world disappears and only the rose remains there. Only your spouse remains in front of you. Your consciousness is totally attentive to the being of the rose or to the being of your spouse. If the attention is total, then the world disappears, because the more attention is concentrated on the rose or on your spouse, everything else falls away. The world disappears, the world of duality. Only the rose remains. Only the spouse remains. This is the first step. Continue to concentrate on the rose or on your spouse. If you cannot concentrate on the rose or on your spouse in that state, it will be difficult to move to the knower, because then mind is always diverted. So concentration becomes the first step, a constant looking at the rose dissolving into it. Constantly looking at the spouse standing in front of you. Becomes the first step towards meditation. Only the rose, the beauty, the fragrance, the luster remains. Only the spouse remains in its pristine beauty, luster, and grandeur. The whole world has disappeared. Now you are moving inwards. Rose or your spouse becomes the door, the point from where you can move. Now, as you see the rose or your spouse, and you start becoming aware of yourself slowly and slowly, the knower. In the beginning you will miss. When you shift to the knower, the rose will drop out of the consciousness. It will become faint. It may go away. It will become distant. You will feel that there is a distance between you and your spouse, between you and the rose. Again you will come to the rose, to your spouse, rose as your spouse, and you will forget the self. This hide and seek play goes on. But if you persist, sooner or later a moment will come when suddenly you will be in between the knower and the mind. The rose will be there and you will be just in the middle, looking at both. When your spouse is standing in front of you, a moment will come when suddenly you will be in between the knower, the mind, and the rose will be there. And you will be just in the middle, looking at both. That middle point, that balancing point, is witness that has happened this morning. Once you know that, you become one. This is the moment of outward death. Then the rose, the beloved, the known and the knower, the mind are just two wings, two sides of you. Then the object and subject are just two wings. You are the center of both. As extension of you, then the world and the divine are both extensions of you. You and your spouse is standing naked in front of one another, just as energy. You have come to the very center of the being. The center of the being is witnessing. There is not two beings. You and your spouse are not separate, but stand as one being. You perceive one being as male and female, as knower and known, as object and subject, as matter and energy. This you have done. You can do by witnessing, by looking, by concentrating as the rose flower, or to be more intense, you can start visualizing your spouse standing in front of you, totally naked. When the concentration has come to be total, then slowly and slowly the inward journey begins. First you become mindful of yourself, then you try to balance. It will take time, sometimes takes months, sometimes even years, but it depends on how intense is your effort. But when you are in the company of an awakened one, this can happen this very moment, this state. Concentration on your spouse standing in front of you has become so intense that you have become mindful of both. You have moved within, become mindful of yourself. The point of balance comes, and the matter and the energy dissolving into one another has happened. Matter and energy dissolving into one another has happened. Rejoice, be into it. When matter and energy have dissolved into one another, you are a witness to it, as you both stand naked in front of one another. This is the beginning of the process. Many more dimensions like this will happen as I take you through these dimensions. As both of you stand in front of one another, witnessing the dissolution of matter and energy, body and the mind into one another. Let us remain like this. Let us stay like this. Enough for now.